welcome to another edition of Everything's Photography. Now today we're going to do a Photoshop tutorial, and this one's going to be on reflections. It's a bit of fun, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Let's jump straight in. Okay, as you can see now I've got an image opened up on the screen and ready to go. So with this image, as you can see, that this image is already of an island in water. This is Cadman's Pool in the New Forest, a photo shoot I did a couple of weeks ago. And if you go on my channel, you can actually see the slideshow of that photo shoot, and also you can see how I did the long exposure shots on that slideshow as well. But today I'm going to show you how to get some great reflections. Now, as you can see here, we do have a few reflections, but we're going to really make this picture pop. So the first thing you do is you come up here and you go to the marquee tool. And what we're going to select is we're going to select the rectangle marquee tool. I'm going mad today. The rectangle marquee tool. From the top corner, you're going to hold down the left button of the mouse, and you're just going to drag that over the picture. And what we're looking for is we're looking for somewhere we can get a straight line. Now, we don't want any water in the picture for obvious reasons, so we're going to create that ourselves. So if I look for a straight line, now obviously here I am chopping off a bit of that island, but that doesn't matter. So here we go. That's my selection. Now to put that selection on its own layer, on a Mac it's Command J, on a Windows computer it's Control J. So I'm going to click Command J, and I've just put that on its own layer. And if I turn this layer off, you can see that I've got that on its own layer. The next thing that we do is we come up to Edit, and we come down to Free Transform. And as you see, that's made a selection over our layer. If you right click on the mouse, you've got lots of options here. What the option we're going to go for is down the bottom here. Click Flip Vertical. So we're going to flip that vertical. Now, if you hold down the Shift key and hold the left button on the mouse, you can drag this down, and it will drag down in a straight line. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this down until those two pictures match up. And I think there is a pretty good match up, don't you? And then click OK. So let's put this on if you double click on the hand, it will fill the screen. Now, as you can see, we've made a reflection there, but it doesn't really look like we've gone and taken a reflection of the water. So this is where the magic happens. We're now going to come up here. We're going to go to Filter. We're going to come down to Blur, and we're going to click Motion Blur, which is there. The next thing we do is we want to make sure that this circle here with a line in it is pointing straight up and down. Now we don't want to overdo it with our motion blur, so if we go down to distance, we don't want loads of motion blur because that will just look like we've motion blurred it. So that's no motion blur, that's lots of motion blur, so no motion blur. So now if we come down, I think probably to about 21, and that's pretty good for me, 21. So then click OK, and as you can see there, we've put a bit of motion blur. So the next thing that we do, because there's one more piece to the puzzle, is we go to Filter, we go to Camera Raw. Now over here we've only got, as you can see, one layer, which is the half of screen that we've turned upside down and motion blurred. When you come into camera raw, all the effects will turn themselves off, but don't worry about that. They'll turn back on when we go back. That's why, while we're looking at this effect, it doesn't look like it's got any motion blur, but it still has. It's just waiting for us to click OK. So then what we do is we get the exposure. Water's always a little bit darker, so let's bring the exposure down a little bit. And water is always quite shiny, and how to get water to become quite shiny is you get your clarity, and let's turn our clarity up. Let's not overdo it, just put our clarity up a little bit, and then click OK. And as you can see there, it looks like we've taken a photograph and we've got a perfect reflection. So to do another example, if I come up here, I've got this picture here. Now this is a picture I took a few months ago, and what we've got here in the distance is you've got the Needles, that's the Isle of Wight, and it was a really nice cloudy day on the day I took the photograph. It was a really nice cloudy day, so we've got a lot of drama going on in the sky. And then we've got this sea, which isn't really anything special to look at. So again, we're going to get our rectangle marquee tool. We're going to start from the top corner and we're going to work that down, and we're going to find a nice straight line just underneath the Needles there. So that, we don't want any water above it. And then we let go of the mouse and it gives us these lines. And these lines here we call marching ants. So once we've selected that, again, like last time, Command J on a Mac, Control J on a Windows PC, and it's put it on its own layer. So if I turn off the background layer, again, you can see we've just selected the top part of that picture. So then we go up to Edit, we go to Free Transform, right click, and then down to Flip Vertical. And then if we hold Shift, we can bring this down until we match those two images nicely. I think that's a pretty good fit. And then OK. Now again, as you can see, it's a nice reflection, but it's not very convincing. So what we'll do here is we'll go to Filter, we'll go to Blur, Motion Blur, remembering that this is straight up and down, floor to ceiling, and then we work out how much motion blur we want. So every picture would be different, but not a lot, you know. So I'm going to put about 21 motion blur on this, and then I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to go to Filter, I'm going to go to Camera Raw Filter, I'm going to turn down that exposure, not too much, just to make it a little bit darker, and then I'm going to turn up the clarity again, not too much. In fact, I'm going to turn down that exposure a little bit more there, and then I'm going to click OK, and there you have it. Now if you really want to bring the picture together, you could go to Filter, go to Camera Raw, forget I said that actually, click OK there again, my mistake. First thing you want to do, of course, is you want to come over here, right click, flatten the image, and then we want to go to Filter, go into Camera Raw, go into Detail, and sharpen that to about 70 to 80. I'm going to sharpen this all the way to 82, because now I'm working with the whole picture look. Then I'm going to come down to the effects section. I'm going to put a little bit of camera raw vignette on that. Just a little bit. As you can see, it brings the whole picture together. I'm going to click OK, and there you have it. A perfect reflection of the Isle of Wight, the Needles and the sky, and I think that makes quite a great picture. And this lesson's been literally just for fun. It's not something I recommend anybody do it for any serious work, but there you go. That's a bit of help there to help you learn how to use Photoshop and make it fun. Well, my name's David. I hope you've really enjoyed it. I hope I'm inspiring you to pick up the camera, get out there and start shooting. Remember, you're taking photographs for yourself. You're not taking them for anyone else's benefit. So shoot what you want and enjoy the pictures you like. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode.